Hey everybody, Ben in for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. On a Friday, we get together and we have a look at the top 5, something normally to do with Blood Bowl. Now, we're working our way through every team available in Blood Bowl 2020 and looking at some of the best alternative teams. So Games Workshop do a great job across the board. I don't think they've made a bad looking team, which is amazing given that there's, 24 teams they've produced now? Something like that. They all look great. There is a downside. A lot of those teams have a positional that's 0 to 4. And there's 0 to 1 sculpts for that positional available. So if you pick up a Games Workshop team that's got 4 of something, so gutter runners, or, now we're looking at humans today, 4 blitzers, you're going to get 4 models in exactly the same pose. Which is fine. It's fine. But maybe there's something out there that's better. So every week we put a post up and say, hey, what are your favourite X teams? And you guys put a bunch of comments and let us know what you think. And we've got a good top 5 for you today, with one honourable mention as well. Now, before we look at the honourable mention and the teams, this is the Games Workshop team. And this was the first team that landed for Blood Bowl, Blood Bowl 2016 edition, the previous edition. This team landed against Orcs in the starter set, and we all started getting very excited. Then they dropped Skaven and Dwarves immediately after, and then Goblins landed, which was less spectacular. But this is really good. So the Games Workshop team, straight out of the bat, is a brilliant sculpt, is a brilliant set of models that, even though it's, 6-7 years old now, has held up really well and is basically the benchmark of Blood Bowl teams. The throwers in an excellent position, and all the other positionals and all the other players are well sculpted. The blitzers are not as massively different as you'd want them to be from the rest of the team, but you kind of get used to it. And hey, it's not the nobility team, is it? So you get that advantage. Now, Games Workshop do a Forge World pack that is in stock that gives you 2 alternative blitzers, a catcher, and an alternative thrower. I do love that thrower. But that's Forge World. So if you want to go Games Workshop, you can definitely do that. You pick up one team and then you pick up a second team, and now we're looking at 60-something pounds. If you want to go the other route, you still have to pick up. You don't have to pick up a second team. You pick up one team, and then you pick up the Forge World kit, which is 20-something pounds. Then you need an ogre, then you need a halfling. It can get very expensive for you to max out your human team. But as a starting point, the Games Workshop team is brilliant. And before we look at third-party teams, the other thing that we've really got to call out, and you guys were brilliant in putting this in the chat, there are so many proxy teams that you can use for humans. Fana lizards, Amazon teams from third parties, Norse team from third parties, converting your own. There is an absolute ton you can do to represent the human team on the pitch, but we're going to look at some of the best third party options for you. And our honourable mention goes to Fana. Now, I love Fana. They do great models and they produce them brilliantly. They cost them very fairly and they deliver them very quickly. It's an absolute dream. Now, this metal team here is a metal team and it's priced very reasonably. €65, 5 to 10 euros for shipping, €75. That's the same price as 2 Games Workshop boxes. And this one's kind of maxed out. No halfling, but does have the ogre. So the human full team has got 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players there, and you've got all the different positionals. Now, it is a cool team, and the sculpting is really nice. It feels a little old. Now, these bases are 25mm, so it feels like it might be old scale, and to me, the players look a little bit like Power Rangers. They've just got that little elongated vibe, which meant I couldn't wholeheartedly put them in the top 5, but I couldn't disregard them because it's a very cool team. So that is the Fanath team. That's our honourable mention of the episode, and onwards now to number 5. Number 5, it's Grebo. So Grebo this was probably one of their first teams that kind of flagged up, and it was the Florence Knights. This is technically a bunch of Bretonnian models, okay? But they do different sets, different team sets. And this team set here is the Imperial Army team bundle of €89.99. So with postage, you're looking £90, okay? Which is kind of what you're expecting from a third-party team. But this one comes loaded to bear. 4 catchers, 4 yeomen, which will be your blitzers in this team, 6 linemen, 2 throwers, an ogre in armor, and some reroll markers and bits and bobs as well. Oh, that's such a cool star player. Every time on the Grebo website, I will look through and I will see the cool star players at the bottom. They've done a good job with their site, clearly. Hide thy wallet. Right. We'll go and actually have a look at some of the models. The Bretonnian vibe for this team was so good. And you had the cool shields as well. You know, a big fan of nobility, but taking Bretonnians away just seems like such a silly thing to do. Anyway, I'm a big fan of Imperial nobility, but an even bigger fan of nobility being used as humans, and you've got the same kind of vibe here. So Bretonnian team, but you've got the yeoman, which can represent your blitzers, and you've got the standard dudes. You've got the thrower there. He's got the cool. I like the I don't know, is it Gambeson? May not be the word, but I like the style, I like the sculpting, and I like the production. It's a really cool team, and you kind of got that old school Bretonnian team vibe, which is a little bit just... It's just something special. Love the helmet option for the Grebo Ogre. It's so good. And for $90, you get the entire team. You get 4 of those catchers, 4 of your blitzers, 6 linemen. That's going to max out what you need. And you got your Ogre and your 2 throwers as well. You are good to go. I love this team. $89.99 is obviously not cheap, but if you're in the market for a human team that can kind of flex that that Bretonnian itch, scratch the Bretonnian itch, team buy good. Number 4, it's the RNE Studio Human Myth Bowl Full Team. Dude, if you've been 3D printing for a while in Blood Bowl, you would have seen this human team. I've seen multiple of these teams, and this is RNE Studio. They do really cool sculpts. They are a little bit cartoony. They kind of got a little bit of an anime vibe to everything they do. And when it comes to this team in particular, their armor is a little bit sci-fi, but it's mixed in with some really great knightly pieces that kind of gives this team, again, another Bretonnian vibe. Because you've got these blitzers with the great, like, grail helms and the sugarloaf helmets. It just works really well. And you've got kind of what has become the classic RNE Studio Ogre as well. You've got the Wolverine player. You've got a great bunch of sculpts. When it comes to differentiating your players, honestly, the guys with the knight helmets are your blitzers most of the time. It's cool. It's really excellent. The sculpting's really good. There's a bunch of diverse players. It's not as clear to identify who's a catcher and who's not, but that's what base markers are for. That's what base edges are for. I mean, do what the old school 2nd edition elf players would do and use the mohawks, use their hair, use the shoulder pads. There's a ton you can do, but actually this one is available for purchase. I think it's in resin. Is it in resin? Don't know if it's in resin. Oh, human full team, made of resin. There we go, 15 bases and 130mm base. It's just available for purchase, and again, it's €100, so it is an investment. The alternative, and that's what gave this one a bit of an edge, is I believe for $49.99 you can pick up the STLs. So if you've got a 3D printer, you can grab this team and print it out for 60 quid instead of 50 quid, instead of 100 quid, or you can go on Etsy and I'm sure someone's printing this team off again for 30, 40 pounds. So it gives a really good mix. I love some of these sculpts in this team are just some of the coolest ones in Blood Bowl. And what I tend to see is a few of these Blitzer models being used in actual like Games Workshop human teams because they're just better sculpts. Anyway, RNE Studio, human full team. Number 3 on the list is a very different team and a very cool team. This is Franchise Draft. Now, if you're like me, you're a big fan of the NFL as well. You may not like the NFL, but you may like the style of the NFL team. Franchise Draft has been doing this for a good few years now. We got early access to a team. I think Rich may have just bought one when it first kind of came out. And the models are really cool. Now, they're more true scale than Blood Bowl. They are resin. They're cast really well. The models are done really nicely. The scale, like I said, it's a little bit smaller than your Blood Bowl stuff, but not by much. We're not talking 2nd edition models here. We're not talking like original third-party stuff. They're just a little bit slighter than the current Games Workshop stuff. You know what? They're the Wood Elf scale. They're the scale of the Wood Elf team. And it's got a whole bunch of different players for different positionals to kind of represent your NFL style. And one thing that I think is absolutely flipping brilliant is they got the numbers on the shoulder pad. Now, I believe you can clip them off to represent kind of an alarm clock number system, which I think is absolutely brilliant. It's just such a cool thing. So you've got like the numbers on their shoulder pads. It works really well. But you've got different positionals here. You've got like clearly the lineman in the middle. You've got like the center. You've got some tight ends. And you've got these linebackers in the backfield. You've got the thrower here. Now the quarterback model is a brilliant model. You've got a couple of, I don't know, running backs. It's just really cool. And I'm a big fan of that actual NFL aesthetic. We're still waiting for a really good rugby version to happen. But I'll take the NFL one for now. Now, I couldn't see any team bundles. The website is a little bit lackluster or a little bit old school in that when it comes to order, you've got to kind of just put in a request here and they'll send you a quote, which is fine and it works all right. We've got a nice slideshow here. They've got some star players and things. Now, when it comes to the female models, there is a range of female models here as well, but we're talking lingerie football league, so it's not your current day female Blood Bowl players. It's not offensive, but it is not, as you know, it's just not what we would normally get from Games Workshop or something. But also, what we don't get from Games Workshop is your NFL team on the pitch. And they're €4 a piece. So you need 16 players. What's that? $64. 64 euros. That's all kind of the same money now, isn't it? 64 Imperial credits. That's not bad. They've got big guys as well. I think the big guys are a little bit more pricey, but I mean, I'm not really that fussed. 64, they're €5. Okay, so 65 euros will get you 16 players, including your ogre. Now, there's no halfling in there, sure, but hey, that's not a bad price, and the aesthetic is beautiful. Number 2, it's Willy Miniature's human team, and I love this team, and I've not seen this team until we've been going through this list. Oh, okay, right. Things I like about this team and why it's so high up the list. It's Willy Miniatures. They do great stuff. The price is $80, €80 for this many players, which I think is 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players. All right, 15 players. And the aesthetic is a really cool one. Now, Willy Miniatures have this vibe of tallness about them. It's not that bad. Their star player miniatures, I think, are even longer. Kind of, they have that kind of just almost kind of true scale vibe. They're just a little bit taller and a little bit slighter. When it comes to Games Workshop history for human teams, you had the first and second edition vibe, which was just halfway between Knights and NFL players. Wicked. I still use my second edition human blocker as Bloods Justice in my Skaven team. Then they introduced the plastic team in the blue box in 95 or something like that for third edition, and then they did a metal version when they were kind of doing all the Citadel journals and stuff like that. And it just kind of took the aesthetic, the Imperial armor aesthetic from the third edition, and added spikes and added sport to it. And Willy Miniatures have just absolutely nailed this aesthetic, and I'm a huge fan of it. And looking at these models for the first time, this is just such a cool looking team. I would not be surprised and I would not be disappointed if Games Workshop released a human team at some point and it looked like this, because this looks like the teams Games Workshop used to do. This looks like the upper final teams of the last era of Blood Bowl, where the sculpting was great, the posing was brilliant, the style was great too. They've done a great job on the paint job here as well, but I'm just really smitten by this team. This is a really strong competitor for top human teams. So Willy Miniatures, what did we say? 80 euros, 15 players. The only thing missing is a halfling. And I think they've got that kind of Blood Bowl aesthetic perfectly done. And that carries over to our number 1 team, which is the RNE human team. Now, this RNE do 3D sculpts. They have a Patreon or a tribe or both, and every month they'll release a team. We've got a cool Dark Elf team this week. this month, so look out for the print pitch on that. Now, I've printed this team out, and I really am a big fan of it. Again, I haven't got around to filming the print to pitch because I took the camera down for the tournaments, and it took a bit of a while to reset. Just look at the sculpts. I mean, this little pudding pusher is just a wicked lad. Look at him. He's just so good. That's the halfling. But here we go. We've got a player here. Now, the armor style is so similar to the Games Workshop armor style from the art and actually on the pitch. If you look at the art for Gretchen Wachter, she's got that tied together chest plate element that we are seeing on all of these players. There's so much sport vibe here, but it's backed up by that kind of metal studding and the spikes that just make you know that this is a fantasy world. This is probably their best team. Ugni do great work. Their high elves were great. Their lizards were great, but this team is their best team yet. And I've seen some really nice paint jobs as well kicking around the community. And their ogre is brilliant too, but they've just done a really good job of taking not the 2nd edition human vibe, but the 3rd edition vibe for Blood Bowl and translating it to a fully functioning team with a bunch of different positionals who are male and female with dynamic sculpting, dynamic posing, and really well put together sculpting. Ugni have done a beautiful job. Look at the face. Look at the face on this lineman. And the halflings. Oh, dude. When Ugni drop a full-on halfling team, that's going to be a really fun one to see. The catchers are great, and they've just done an absolutely super job. This is a brilliant team. Why am I not just using this one for my Amazon team? There we go. Amazon team. Beautiful. You can just print off these guys. You got the throwers. You can just take a couple of blitzers, take a couple of the ones posed as blockers, scale them up a bit. Boom! There we go. I've been looking for a nice Amazon team that really vibes in the new edition. Look at this. This could be a star player, and that's exactly what we look for. And I know I say that almost every week when it comes to doing the top few teams in these top 5s, but almost every one of these sculpts could be a star player. And what more can you say? Now, from a price point of view, you can get it printed for £30–40 on Etsy. If you don't have the STLs, then it is a little bit pricey at $49. But you get a ton of different players. 7 linemen, 4 blitzers, 4 catchers, 2 throwers, 2 halflings, 2 ogres, and a double-sided coin, I'll have you know. $50 for a team's worth of STLs feels quite high. I know we always kind of say this, that a full team you're looking 30 to 40 to be fine. You know, 20 is really good for a whole team's worth of STL. RNE Studio, looking about $49.99. So it's not priced expensive. It's not expensive from an STL point of view. It's just a lot more than you normally pay. But this is one of the ones that are priced at that point that I would say actually it's a fair price for this team. They've done a beautiful job on the sculpting, and I know from experience of printing this, bless, it's just sitting in a box outside, that it's pre-supported well and the models look beautiful. And if I can remember, someone in my group chat sent a picture of the team. I don't know who painted it, but I'll try and flash it up now on screen so you can kind of see what a painted edition is. Forgive me, not my team. But it was in the group chat and I thought this is wicked and I kind of want to show off what the team can look like. Anyway, RNE Studios, great human team. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up. Let me know what you think of these teams or if we've missed a really good one out, because more Blood Bowl is more better. Anyway, we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.